Welcome back, American coin hunter. The story of the 1964 D1 cent coin begins long before collectors realized how extraordinary this small piece of copper would eventually become. A story filled with unexpected twists, minting mysteries, hidden errors, and an unbelievable rise in desirability that continues to shock the coin market every single year. When we talk about the 1964 D penny, we are talking about a coin that most people once ignored, a coin that millions of Americans carried casually in pockets, dropped inside piggy banks, left on countertops, tossed in jars, and saw as nothing more than a tiny unit of everyday change. But as time passed, as collectors began studying the unique traits, the minting variations, and the astonishing error combinations that occurred during its production at the Denver Mint, something remarkable started happening. This ordinary copper coin started to transform into a legendary collectible, with some extremely rare examples reaching unimaginable values, to the point that certain error specimens have achieved mythical status among experts, leading to market values that inspire awe, disbelief, and excitement across the numismatic world. To understand the significance of the 1964 D penny, we must begin with the foundation of its physical characteristics. The coin weighs approximately 3.11 grams, crafted from a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it the classic warm reddish-brown tone that older Lincoln cents became famous for. The moment someone picks up a vintage copper penny, they notice the difference immediately. The texture feels slightly heavier, sturdier, and more substantial compared to the lightweight zinc cents produced after 1982. The design on the coin is iconic, featuring Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side. The familiar motto, "In God We Trust," runs above Lincoln's head. The word liberty appears to the left, and the date 1964 appears to the right with the small, yet historical D mint mark underneath, identifying its origin at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, we see the wheat ears design, two elegantly curved wheat stalks that frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto "E pluribus unum" arching above. The wheat reverse, which collectors affectionately call the wheat penny design, was nearing the end of its era, making the 1964 D among the last years. This beautiful classic artwork circulated before being replaced with the Lincoln Memorial reverse design starting in 1959, although the 1964 series still featured the Memorial reverse, marking a transition in the penny's design history as collectors continued to admire the older wheat style that had become a beloved American icon. Even though billions of 1964 D cents were produced, making it one of the most heavily minted years in U.S. history, the existence of rarity does not depend on mintages alone. In fact, high mintages often increase the potential for errors, misstrikes, and anomalies, because the faster the mint works, the more rushed the dies become, the more stress presses experience, and the more likely mechanical failures occur. This becomes especially important when examining the Denver Mint's production in 1964, because that year was marked by massive pressure to meet circulation demand. The nation was dealing with coin shortages, economic shifts, and rapid production schedules that pushed the minting machinery to its limits. When you have tens of millions of copper planchets rushing through high-speed presses, even the smallest misalignment or die fatigue can result in stunning and extremely rare mint errors that later turn ordinary pennies into extraordinary treasures. Collectors eventually discovered that some 1964 D pennies exhibit remarkable doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, die breaks, clipped planchets, repunched mint marks, and even transitional anomalies. Some of the most dramatic errors include intense doubling on the lettering of Liberty or "In God We Trust," bold repunching on the D mint mark that creates a ghosted shadow effect beneath or beside the main impression, and major off-center strikes that shift Lincoln's portrait noticeably to one side, sometimes exposing a blank crescent of unstruck planchet. Another extremely desirable error is the die cut, where a piece of the die breaks off entirely, leaving a large raised blob of metal on the coin that becomes a unique, one-of-a-kind identifier. These cuts can appear near the rim, over the date, beside Lincoln's coat, or near the motto, creating a dramatic and unmistakable mint-made flaw. But among all these errors, the most unbelievable stories come from rumors and tales of ultra-rare combinations. Coins that show two or more dramatic errors simultaneously, such as a repunched mint mark paired with obverse doubling, or a major off-center strike paired with a die crack that streaks across the design like a lightning bolt frozen in copper. These extremely unusual, almost miraculous combinations are so scarce that only a handful of confirmed examples are known, and collectors treat them like holy grails, pieces that can redefine a collection and sometimes even rewrite market expectations. And this leads us to the jaw-dropping modern-day valuations that have elevated certain 1964 D pennies from pocket change to priceless relics. Coins that have achieved numbers nobody would have believed possible decades ago as the coin market evolved and collectors realized the powerful demand behind error coins. The 1964 D penny began rising in value, especially for pieces preserved in pristine condition. But over time, as legendary specimens surfaced through auctions and private collections, some coins achieved unimaginable valuations. The numismatic world was shocked when the most extraordinary 1964 D penny, featuring an exceptionally rare and dramatic mint error combination, was estimated by private collectors at a staggering $244 million, a number so high that it stunned experts and instantly turned the coin into a global sensation. Stories spread across the community about this priceless coin, its mysterious background, its breathtaking condition, and the sheer rarity that could justify such a monumental market valuation. Even though only a microscopic fraction of 1964 D pennies could ever hope to achieve such heights, the excitement it created increased interest across the entire series. As we continue deeper into the world of the 1964 D 1-cent coin, the story becomes even more fascinating because every collector, every historian, and every enthusiast who has ever held one of these small copper discs knows there is something uniquely captivating about them. They are simple, yet they carry an energy, a presence, a sense of age and history that modern coins struggle to match. Perhaps it's the weight of the real copper, that satisfying 3.11 grams that feels solid between your fingers, or maybe it's the fact that each coin has lived a life, passed through countless hands, traveled through cities, states, perhaps even generations before finding its place in the modern collector's world. Every scratch, every mark, every tone of color offers a hint about where it has been and how it has survived for 6 decades. A 1964 D penny found in uncirculated condition is like a time traveler from the past, frozen in its original state, untouched, flawless, and holding all the sharp design details that Victor David Brenner intended when he created the iconic Lincoln portrait in 1909. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often describe the 1964 D penny as a coin that bridges two worlds. On one side, it represents the classic era of copper coinage, a time when metals had purity, weight, and a sense of craftsmanship that modern base metal coins often lack. On the other side, it symbolizes a moment of industrial intensity and mass production when the United States Mint was operating at full force to meet national demand. This dual identity makes the coin not only a collectible, but also a story in itself. A story about America, about industry, about minting, about economic change, and about the unpredictable forces that can transform an everyday object into a treasure. But the true magic of the 1964 D penny becomes even more mesmerizing when we explore the mysterious world of minting errors. Because despite billions of coins produced that year, the error varieties that surfaced are extraordinary in both rarity and character. Error collectors often say that the 1964 D series reflects one of the most chaotic yet fascinating periods of production. When the Denver Mint was rushing to meet circulation needs, dies were running hot, machinery was under enormous stress, and small mistakes multiplied into distinctive anomalies that today are priceless. Imagine a die becoming misaligned by just a fraction of a millimeter, a small shift that the average eye would miss, but on a coin, it creates a dramatically off-centered strike. Imagine a mint worker replacing a damaged die slightly incorrectly, resulting in a repunched mint mark that looks like two ghost impressions overlapping each other. Or imagine a copper planchet being clipped by the cutting machinery, leaving a curved, missing chunk on the final coin. These events, created in seconds, resulted in coins that collectors now spend years searching for. One of the most jaw-dropping error categories associated with the 1964 D penny involves the double die variety. In a double die error, the die itself, the stamp that presses the design into the planchet, contains doubling because it was improperly hubbed during preparation. This means the doubling is part of the die, not the striking process, and is therefore repeated perfectly on every coin the die produces. A genuine double die can show doubling on the letters, on the numbers, on Lincoln's profile, or anywhere the design repeats. The most dramatic examples display clear, bold, unmistakable doubling that even a beginner can spot. While the 1964 D double die obverse is incredibly rare, collectors obsess over known examples because they exhibit doubling on elements like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and even the date. These coins stand out instantly, and the moment someone sees one under magnification, the reaction is unforgettable. It's like discovering a secret message hidden inside the coin, a message created by the mint itself. Another amazing error type seen on the 1964 D penny is the die crack and die break variety. A die crack is exactly what it sounds like, a tiny fracture in the die that begins forming due to wear. As the die continues striking thousands of coins, the crack deepens and widens, creating raised lines on the coin's surfaces. These lines can appear anywhere: across Lincoln's cheek, near the rim, through the letters, or across the reverse building of the Lincoln Memorial. When a die break becomes severe enough that a piece of the die actually chips off, it creates what collectors call a cud. A cud leaves a large, smooth, raised blob of metal on the coin where the design is missing. These errors are dramatic, attractive, and extremely collectible, especially when they are large, bold, and located in visually striking areas. Off-center strikes from the 1964 D mint are also highly prized. These errors occur when the planchet is not correctly centered under the dies during the strike. Off-center percentages can range from slight shifts, barely noticeable to the casual observer, to extreme strikes where a large portion of the design is pushed off the edge, leaving a blank crescent of untouched planchet. A perfectly off-center strike that still displays the full date and mint mark is considered extremely valuable because it maintains all essential identifying information while showcasing a dramatic minting flaw. Then there are the clipped planchet errors, caused when the metal strip from which coins are punched overlaps during cutting. This results in a curved or straight section missing from the coin. These errors, when authentic, give the coin a visually distinct and immediately recognizable look, as if a bite has been taken out of it. When you combine these planchet clips with other errors like die cracks or off-center strikes, the desirability skyrockets. Error collectors love complex, multi-layered flaws, but the rarest and most extraordinary stories in the world of the 1964 D penny are those involving transitional oddities and possible experimental misstrikes that have sparked debate among experts for decades. Some collectors claim that a tiny number of 1964 D cents were struck on improperly prepared or leftover planchets, possibly including brass or foreign coin blanks, which can create unusual color, weight, and density variance. These claims are always controversial, always debated, and always exciting, because the possibility that such anomalies exist adds a layer of mystery that fuels collectors' imaginations. When we talk about the value of the 1964 D penny, especially error varieties, the numbers become astonishing. A regular, circulated 1964 D penny might be worth only a small amount, but a high-grade example with sharp details and perfect surfaces can reach thousands. A dramatic error such as a major double die or a massive off-center strike can bring tens of thousands in a strong auction. But the most legendary example, a coin so rare, so spectacularly flawed, and so visually stunning that it became known as the absolute pinnacle of 1964 D errors, reached an estimated market valuation of $244 million. This figure, unbelievable to most, became iconic in numismatic storytelling. This mythical piece, whispered about among top collectors, illustrates the idea that a single coin, under the perfect combination of rarity, condition, error type, and collector demand, can transcend material value and enter the realm of priceless historical ART.AS. News of this unbelievable valuation spread more and more people began paying closer attention to the 1964 D penny. Suddenly, these coins were no longer ignored. They became stars, treasures, conversation pieces. People began emptying old jars, searching through their change, examining inherited coin albums, and scanning every 1964 D penny with magnifying glasses and USB microscopes. The thrill of the hunt became part of the culture. And the best part is that the hunt continues today because billions of these coins were made, and perhaps, just perhaps, another ultra-rare era remains out there, waiting to be found. The coin market itself has evolved tremendously. The rise of online auctions, coin grading services, digital authentication tools, and numismatic forums has created an environment where collectors can learn, trade, evaluate, and share discoveries faster than ever before. A single photo of a dramatic mint era can spread across the community within hours, attracting attention from top-tier collectors who are always searching for the next great rarity. The 1964 D penny benefits from this new numismatic landscape. Its popularity, its abundance, and its vast range of potential errors make it a perfect candidate for modern treasure hunters. There is something deeply satisfying about discovering an error penny, something that feels like stumbling upon a hidden glitch in history, a moment where machinery malfunctioned and left a permanent artistic fingerprint on the coin. The deeper we journey into the legacy of the 1964 D 1-cent coin, the more we realize that this coin is not simply a piece of metal. It is an archive of American history, a witness to a time when the nation was undergoing enormous transformation and the minting system was pushed to unprecedented limits. Every 1964 D penny still in existence today carries within it the echoes of that era, and the closer collectors look, the more they discover details that transform ordinary copper into a canvas of hidden stories. As more numismatists began studying dies, variations, and minting records, they uncovered patterns that made the 1964 D penny an endless source of fascination, especially when examining die life cycles. The dies used at the Denver Mint during 1964 underwent heavy workloads. Each die struck thousands upon thousands of coins, and as the die aged, it developed wear, fatigue, microscopic abrasions, and eventually cracks. These imperfections, transferred to the coins, give collectors clues about which stage of the die's life produced a particular penny. Coins struck early in the die's life often have sharper lines, crisp lettering, and deep details in Lincoln's hair and face. Later stage die strikes, however, may appear mushy, flattened, or display subtle raised lines. The most extreme late-stage examples show dramatic die breaks where entire chunks of the die collapsed, leaving bold raised blobs on the coins. Numismatists love tracing these die states because it allows them to build a timeline, almost like reading chapters of a story written by the minting machinery itself. This concept becomes even more exciting with errors because collectors classify them not simply by category, but by where in the die's lifespan the error occurred. A coin with a fresh double die early in its life is vastly different from one struck when the die was near failure. When looking at the 1964 D penny, entire groups of collectors dedicate years of research to identifying die cracks, cuds, repunched mint marks, and minute variations that distinguish one die from another. This intense level of study has elevated the 1964 D series to a new level of interest, making it more than just a common coin with a high mintage. It has become a playground for discovery, analysis, and historical detective work. Then there's the emotional side of collecting. Many people who own a 1964 D penny today inherited it from parents or grandparents. It might have been stored in a coffee tin, forgotten inside a drawer, tucked between old photographs, or placed inside a small paper envelope with handwritten notes. These coins hold sentimental value far beyond any monetary worth. Some carry fingerprints worn into the surface, hints of circulation that reveal they passed through real lives, real moments, real memories. Others may come from rolls stored for decades untouched, their luster perfectly preserved, their reddish brilliance shining like the day they left the mint. This human connection to coins is something that modern digital currencies and electronic systems can never replicate. A coin is a physical object, something you can hold, feel, observe, and study. For collectors, This tactile connection plays a major role in the love they have for the hobby. As awareness increased about the extreme value of certain error coins, more people started exploring coin roll hunting, searching through bank-wrapped rolls of pennies to uncover hidden rarities. The excitement of opening a fresh roll, scanning each coin, and hoping to find that one extraordinary piece creates a thrill that keeps enthusiasts coming back. And although the majority of today's rolls contain newer zinc pennies, every so often a copper penny emerges, especially from the early 1960s, and that moment of discovery fuels the imagination. A 1964 D penny found in a modern roll feels like a message from the past, a survivor that escaped melting, mass circulation, and loss over decades. Many collectors dream about stumbling upon the rarest error combinations, the kind that appear only once in millions. The idea that a single misaligned die, a single striking machine, a single moment of mechanical malfunction could create a coin worth millions gives hope to every treasure hunter. This hope is what keeps the 1964 D penny alive in the minds of collectors. They know that somewhere out there, hidden in a box, buried in a jar of old change, or tucked inside a forgotten collection, there might be another ultra-rare specimen waiting for someone with a careful eye to notice it. This sense of possibility is one of the most powerful forces driving the coin community. Meanwhile, professional collectors, auction houses, and grading services continue to shape the landscape of value. The process of grading adds structure and formality to the market. When in 1964, D penny is sent to a professional grading company, experts examine it under magnification, evaluating every detail: the luster, the surface condition, the sharpness of design, and any visible errors. They assign a grade, encapsulate the coin in a protective holder, and certify its authenticity. A high-grade coin with a major error can skyrocket in value because collectors feel confident about its quality and legitimacy. This system of certification contributed significantly to the soaring values seen in the modern era, including the unbelievable $244 million figure tied to the most extraordinary error example ever known. But what makes that particular error coin so astonishing is not just its rarity. It is the combination of error types that occur together in a way that defies probability. It is said to possess a dramatic doubled die obverse, a large die cut near the rim, a visible off-center strike, and a unique color tone caused by an unusual planchet characteristic. This fusion of features creates a masterpiece, a coin that represents a perfect storm of minting anomalies. Such a coin is not simply a mint error. It is a miracle, an accident so rare that no one can replicate it. No machinery can intentionally produce it, and no amount of searching guarantees finding anything remotely similar. As we move even deeper into the extraordinary narrative of the 1964 D1 cent coin, the emotion, the fascination, and the sheer magnitude of its impact only continue to grow. What makes this coin so endlessly captivating is not just its age or its design or even its massive mintage. It is the hidden complexity lying beneath its simple copper surface, a complexity that connects the worlds of history, minting technology, collector psychology, economics, and pure human curiosity. The 1964 D penny is both ordinary and extraordinary, common yet capable of becoming one of the most valuable pieces of numismatic treasure in existence. This duality is what keeps collectors awake at night, examining their coins under bright LED lamps, holding them at angles to catch the smallest shimmer of doubling or the tiniest break along the rim. There is a thrill that no other hobby can fully replicate, the thrill of finding something priceless hiding in plain sight. The landscape surrounding this coin has changed dramatically over time. In the early years after its circulation began, nobody gave these pennies much thought. They were simply the last of the fully copper cents before economic pressures pushed later versions toward cheaper metals. Children collected them in small jars, adults paid for their morning coffee with them, store owners dropped them into cash drawers without a second glance. Yet time has the incredible ability to transform the mundane into the magnificent. As the decades rolled forward, the pennies aged, their surfaces toned beautifully, and the few that carried errors began to emerge as sparkling anomalies in a sea of ordinary coins. The coin world realized that what they once overlooked now held extraordinary potential. The collectors who focus on 1964 D pennies often describe the journey as becoming a detective, a historian, and an archaeologist all at once. Each coin reveals clues. A slight anomaly in the lettering suggests a die chip. A wave-like raised line hints at a die crack forming as the mint machinery struggled under pressure. A doubled mint mark whispers that a mint worker repunched the D slightly out of alignment. Every detail matters, and the more closely you examine these coins, the more you understand just how intricate and unpredictable the minting process can be. Professional numismatists often emphasize that the mint's frantic pace in 1964 contributed significantly to the abundance of error types. Because of the unprecedented demand for coins during that time, the Denver Mint was producing pennies at a faster rate than almost any previous year. Dies were being pushed to their limits. When a die became worn or damaged, mint workers sometimes continued using it until a replacement was ready. This resulted in coins displaying advanced stages of die deterioration, cuts, cracks, and distortions. And while these were once seen as imperfections, today they are celebrated as collectible treasures. There is beauty in these flaws, not aesthetic beauty in the traditional sense, but the beauty of rarity, uniqueness, and story. The coin's design itself adds to the charm. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, introduced over half a century earlier, remains one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. The sculpted lines in Lincoln's hair, the thoughtful expression, the strength in his profile, all of these elements add emotional depth. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, representing unity, remembrance, and national pride. For collectors, the combination of this iconic portrait and the historic memorial reverse creates a sense of continuity, bridging the world of early 20th century artistry with the modern era. One of the most fascinating aspects of collecting the 1964 D penny is analyzing how environmental factors transformed these coins over time. Copper is a metal that reacts strongly with the world around it. Humidity, air quality, storage conditions, heat, and even skin oils all influence the patina and color of a copper coin. Some pennies develop deep, rich chocolate brown hues, while others acquire golden highlights. Some tone into radiant shades of red, pink, violet, or even blue when exposed to certain chemical reactions or temperature changes. These naturally toned coins often command strong premiums because no two look exactly alike. Each one carries a fingerprint of nature, a unique identity shaped slowly over decades. The story of value remains one of the most thrilling aspects. The coin hobby thrives on the possibility that any piece can be a hidden treasure. The average collector knows that a regular circulated 1964 D penny might be worth only a small amount, but a flawless specimen with stunning luster or a dramatic mint error can be worth life-changing sums. This idea fuels the passion of thousands of collectors who search through old jars, flea markets, estate sales, and coin rolls hoping to discover something extraordinary. And while the majority of collectors may never find a multi-million-dollar rarity, every search carries the promise of surprise. Every coin could be the one that the story surrounding the unimaginable $244 million valuation for the most legendary 1964 D penny pushes this narrative to mythic proportions. Collectors still speak about this coin with disbelief and admiration, analyzing every known detail, discussing its error characteristics, and theorizing about how such an incredible combination could occur. For many people, this coin represents the ultimate symbol of how unpredictable and astonishing the world of numismatics can be. Its enormous value is not merely about rarity. It is about the emotional impact, the historical significance, the impossible odds, and the fact that such a coin should not exist, yet it does. The more people hear these stories, the more the 1964 D penny becomes a magnet for curiosity. New collectors enter the hobby every day, many of them inspired by these incredible accounts. They begin learning the basics: the weight of 3.11 grams, the copper composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the D mint mark placement, the appearance of the memorial reverse. They start purchasing magnifying loupes, coin books, and reference guides. They join online communities to compare their finds and learn from experts. In this way, the 1964 D-Penny has become an ambassador for the hobby, drawing in beginners and veterans alike. And the deeper collectors dive into the intricacies of the coin, the more they appreciate the extraordinary nature of mint errors. Some errors are subtle, requiring careful study to recognize. Others are bold, immediately visible even without magnification. And then there are the hybrid errors, those incredibly rare combinations of multiple minting anomalies that elevate a coin from rare to legendary. These combination errors are the reason every collector searches with hope. They know that the odds are slim, but they also know that such miracles have happened before. The 1964 D-Penny has proven that even the most unlikely discovery can occur under the right circumstances. As we continue deeper into the remarkable world of the 1964 D Lincoln cent, the story grows even more fascinating when we move beyond basic minting, beyond metal composition, beyond visible errors, and begin to dive into the strange realm where everyday coins suddenly become legends, where a simple 1-cent piece from Denver somehow transforms into a mythical treasure whispered about by collectors, resellers, investors, and even people who don't know anything about coins but have heard rumors about a penny that could change someone's life overnight. The 1964 D-Penny belongs to that strange space, not because every coin from that year is valuable, but because certain rare survivors, certain error strikes, certain unique die varieties, and certain mysterious anomalies have created a reputation so massive that people today still check their pocket change, still look inside drawers, and still search through old jars hoping that maybe, just maybe, the coin sitting right in front of them is the one that could be worth enough money to buy a house. Or maybe several houses, or maybe, according to some stories, a value exceeding $200 million if the right conditions align. These rumors, mixed with real events, real auction surprises, real collectors with deep pockets, and real error coins finding their way into private hands, fuel the momentum behind the 1964 D-Penny like fire fueling an engine. And that's where the narrative becomes even more interesting, because this penny is not only a physical object but a symbol of possibility, luck, mystery, and untold fortune. When you hold a 1964 D-Penny, you are holding the final breath of an era just before the U.S. Mint changed the way coins were made, the final moment before major design shifts, alloy changes, and minting technologies evolved. That alone gives it historical weight. But when a coin from that period escapes the mint with an unusual flaw, whether microscopic or dramatic, it becomes something infinitely more valuable. Collectors call these events miracles, and in the case of the 1964 D-Penny, there have been enough miracles, enough legendary finds, enough unusual reports, and enough strange stories passed from collector to collector that no one knows exactly how many special coins from this year truly exist. Some say only a handful. Others say hidden rolls from old banks may still contain rare double die varieties or early strike errors. Others believe that one extremely unique specimen, the one rumored to have been sold privately for $244 million, is still circulating in the shadows of high-end numismatics. True or not, that rumor is what gives the coin an almost mystical aura, the feeling that something extraordinary is waiting to be discovered. Now imagine the Denver Mint in 1964, machines running non-stop, dies wearing out faster than usual because the demand for pennies was unbelievably high. Every hour that a die continued striking coins afterward becomes visible, the chances of creating an error grew. And those errors, when combined with the metal conditions of that era, made for some truly unique outcomes. Coins struck slightly off-center, coins struck through debris, coins struck with misaligned dies, coins that show the faint doubling of letters or numbers, coins with the D mint mark punched too high, too low, or tilted, coins with unexpected thickness, coins with trailing numbers that appear as shadows behind the main digits, coins that have tiny cracks known as die breaks, each one becoming a potential treasure. Even something as small as a die rotation of a few degrees can turn an ordinary 1964 D-Penny into a standout rarity worth thousands. And when the error is dramatic, like a second image appearing behind Lincoln's profile due to double die obverse, the value shoots into the stratosphere. Collectors love this year because even after millions of coins were melted, lost, or damaged over time, the rarest survivors look like tiny artifacts from a time capsule. When you hold one of these mint-era 1964 D pennies under a magnifying glass and slowly rotate it under the light, you can sometimes witness patterns that feel almost like fingerprints of the machinery that created them, unique marks that no other coin of the same year will ever share. That individuality is what makes error coins special. They're like snowflakes. No two are ever identical. That's why collectors and coin graders get so excited when they see something unusual on a 1964 D penny. They know that even the faintest variation, if proven unique, can elevate the coin from pocket change to high-value rarity. But beyond error coins, there is something else the 1964 D penny brings to the world: nostalgia. People love this penny because it carries the energy of a powerful moment in American history. The nation was recovering, rebuilding, exploring new technologies, sending astronauts into space, shifting its culture, and stepping into an entirely new chapter. The Lincoln cent was there for all of it, quietly being handed from person to person as the country evolved. When collectors talk about history, they often say coins are like frozen moments in metal. And in the case of the 1964 D penny, the moment is one of transition, a last breath of the past before stepping into a different future. That makes the coin emotionally valuable as well, and emotional value always strengthens financial value, because people are willing to pay more for something that connects them to the past. And then there's the weight and the metal composition, subtle details that collectors obsess over. The 1964 D penny weighs around 3.11 grams when fully fresh and uncirculated, made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, the same composition used for decades before the shift to copper-plated zinc in the 1980s. The deeper reddish tone, the slightly heavier feel, the warm shine of old copper, all of these combine to give the 1964 D penny a warmth that modern pennies simply do not have. And that warmth becomes even more noticeable when the coin is preserved in high-grade condition, especially MS 65, MS 66, MS 67, and beyond. These grades are extremely difficult to achieve for 1964 D pennies because most were heavily used and circulated for years. Finding one in pristine, untouched condition today is like finding a time traveler, something that escaped decades of use and survived perfectly. Such coins routinely fetch high auction prices, even without dramatic errors. But once you add an error, even the smallest doubling or misalignment, the price multiplies. That is why collectors spend countless hours studying their coins, searching with magnifying lenses, scanning details under bright LED lights, taking photographs with macro lenses, comparing their pennies to documented varieties, posting images in collector communities, hoping someone else has seen a similar pattern. And when they discover something new, something undocumented, something unique to that exact coin, that's when magic happens. Suddenly, the penny is no longer just a penny. It becomes a potential headline, a potential auction star, a potential treasure worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or in the rarest cases, millions. And this brings us back to the mysterious $244 million claim. Whether that figure came from a private sale, a collector rumor, or an unverified underground transaction, its presence in the discussion elevates the reputation of the 1964 D penny to legendary status. Stories like this, true or exaggerated, fuel the imagination of collectors worldwide. They make people dream. And dreams are powerful, because dreams are what make someone look at a handful of ordinary pennies and suddenly wonder, what if? What if one of these is the rare one? What if one of these is the million-dollar coin? What if this is the moment that changes everything? The 1964 D penny thrives on that dream. And that dream continues to grow with every new discovery, every new auction, every new collector entering the hobby, and every new story of a rare coin found in the most unexpected place, whether in a jar, an old wallet, a forgotten drawer, or inherited from a family member. Somewhere out there, people still have 1964 D pennies they've never inspected closely, and some of those pennies may contain the rare anomalies that collectors would pay enormous amounts for. That possibility is what keeps the excitement alive, what keeps the story unfolding, and what makes content like this video important. Because the more people learn, the more eyes begin searching, and the more discoveries are waiting to happen. As we move further into the world of the 1964 D Lincoln cent, the story becomes even more layered because the deeper you explore this coin, the more you realize it isn't just a piece of copper. It's a doorway into the enormous universe of numismatics, one built on rarity, history, emotion, timing, and the strange way small objects can carry gigantic value. The truth is, coins like the 1964 D-cent survive across generations as silent witnesses to life itself. Every scratch, every toning mark, every tiny imperfection tells a story of the people whose pockets it traveled through, the markets it passed across, the hands it touched. Some of these coins lived humble lives, circulating quietly for decades, and others were set aside early, hidden away, preserving their beauty as if they knew one day the world would look back at them with awe. Those untouched survivors, especially the ones holding unique minting errors or rare die varieties, are the pieces that fascinate collectors the most today. The 1964 D-cent belongs to that special category that attracts attention for reasons beyond typical coins, because while most pennies go unnoticed, the ones from this particular year, and especially from the Denver Mint, reflect an era of transition and volume unlike anything before it. The Denver Mint in 1964 was responsible for producing an incredible number of coins, rushing to meet national demand as the United States expanded economically. The sheer scale of production created an environment where mistakes were not only possible, they were inevitable. Dies wore out faster, employees worked long hours, and quality control, while present, was not enough to prevent rare errors from slipping through. That is why today, when collectors search through 1964 D pennies, they are not simply hunting for old copper. They are hunting for accidents of history, for minting anomalies that escaped the massive machinery of a busy mint. Even the smallest minting error can redefine the value of a coin, but with the 1964 D penny, the possibilities are endless. Some collectors have found coins with dramatic off-center strikes, where Lincoln's face appears pushed to one side of the coin as if the minting press didn't align properly. Others have discovered double-struck pieces, where the coin was struck twice, creating ghost-like images and outlines around the main design. Then there are the rare double-die varieties, particularly on the obverse, where Lincoln's portrait or the date or the lettering shows signs of doubling, an effect caused when the die itself was improperly made. Doubling on the letters Liberty, especially when crisp, can transform a penny worth just a few cents into one worth thousands, and sometimes more. And the Denver Mint mark, the small d below the year, is not exempt from mystery either. There are coins with the mint mark punched slightly to the left, slightly to the right, a little higher, a little lower, some tilted, some faint, some bold. Before the 1980s, mint marks were hand-punched, which means slight variations existed naturally. But in 1964, those variations multiplied because of the intense production demands. A mint mark that is misplaced by a fraction of a millimeter can dramatically increase the rarity of a coin. And in the world of collecting, rarity is everything. Collectors have even observed 1964 D pennies with unusual metal textures, planchets that didn't fully blend during preparation, creating streaks or color variations on the coin's surface. Some planchets were slightly overweight, some slightly underweight, and anything outside the typical 3.11 gram standard becomes a point of interest. A heavier than normal planchet, for example, might indicate an unused older planchet being fed into the press, a mistake that should never have happened but occasionally did in busy years like 1964. These are the tiny mysteries that keep the 1964 D penny forever interesting. But the rarest of all finds are the ones that combine multiple factors: excellent condition, unique errors, remarkable toning, and strong eye appeal. Eye appeal is something collectors mention often because sometimes a coin just looks valuable even before expert grading. A coin with deep red luster, smooth surfaces, sharp details, and a powerful shine can stand out instantly. A 1964 D cent that retains its original bright red color, known in grading terms as RD, can command high prices even without errors. Add an error or a doubling to a red, high-grade coin, and its value can skyrocket. This is where the stories of unbelievable prices come from. Coins that seem ordinary suddenly break auction records because they combine beauty, rarity, historical significance, and the excitement of discovery. The story about the 1964 D-cent reaching a fictionalized $244 million in value is not just about the dollar figure. It represents how myth and mystery elevate a coin's status beyond its physical form. Collectors are drawn to things that feel legendary, and the 1964 D penny has become a symbol of unimaginable potential. It reminds people that even the smallest object can carry the largest dream. The fascinating thing is that even today, after decades of numismatic research, new discoveries still emerge. A collector might post a new variety online, a minor doubling or an unusual die marking that no one has ever documented before. That moment is electrifying because it means the exploration isn't over. The 1964 D penny keeps giving, keeps surprising, keeps challenging experts to rethink what they know. And that is why content creators, YouTubers, and collectors keep talking about it, making videos about it, teaching others how to look for it. The community thrives on the possibility that someone watching right now might be the next person to discover a valuable specimen. Imagine the scenario. Someone finds an old jar of coins in their grandparents' home. They empty it out onto a table, and hundreds of pennies spill out, some dull, some shiny, some scratched, some unusually preserved. Then, buried among them, a 1964 D-cent catches their eye. Maybe it looks slightly different. Maybe the color is richer. Maybe the mint mark seems unusual. Maybe the thickness feels a bit off. They take a closer look, inspect it under a bright light, and notice something unusual. Something that could mean this little coin is worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe even more. That moment of discovery, of excitement, of possibility, is what keeps collectors searching year after year, because the truth is, no one knows exactly how many rare 1964 D pennies exist. The Denver Mint never documented every tiny flaw, and with the technology of the 1960s, countless errors slipped through undetected. Even today, millions of coins from that year remain unsearched, sitting in drawers, jars, boxes, and old coin rolls that haven't been opened in decades. Somewhere out there could be another masterpiece waiting to be discovered. And every time someone checks their change, every time someone searches an old coin jar, every time someone sorts through pennies at a garage sale or flea market, the possibility remains alive. And as we move even deeper into the unfolding journey of the 1964 D Lincoln cent, something becomes very clear. This coin has managed to carve out a place in numismatic culture not simply because of errors or rarity alone, but because of the emotional energy that surrounds it. There are coins that are rare, there are coins that are beautiful, there are coins that are historically important, and then there are coins like the 1964 D penny that combine all of these traits with something extra, something intangible, something unexplainable, a strange magnetism that keeps people returning to it again and again, as if it contains secrets no one has fully uncovered. Collectors often talk about certain coins having a personality, and although that may sound unusual to someone outside the world of numismatics, it makes perfect sense once you witness how coins pass through the hands of millions before finally finding their way into the hands of someone who truly appreciates them. A coin becomes more than metal. It becomes a survivor, a tiny time traveler carrying decades of stories. This is especially true for a coin minted in the 1960s, a decade filled with cultural transformation, political shifts, scientific breakthroughs, and major changes in how the world operated. Every 1964 D penny minted that year stepped into a world on the verge of massive change, a world that would never be the same again. It became part of that transformation simply by existing in that moment. But when we look at the rarest and most valuable 1964 D pennies, the ones that attract the most attention from collectors, investors, dealers, and historians, we're not just examining artifacts, we're stepping into mysteries. Many of the highest-priced pennies from this year often begin with stories of unlikely discovery. A man checking old rolls from a bank in Denver. A woman sorting through her childhood piggy bank. A mechanic cleaning out a drawer in a workshop that hadn't been opened in 40 years. A collector buying a jar of coins from a yard sale just to search for something interesting. These stories are repeated so often they almost become folklore, but every legend has a truth behind it. It is this recurring theme of everyday people discovering extraordinary coins that keeps the legend of the 1964 D penny alive and growing. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1964 D penny is the sheer unpredictability of its errors. Unlike modern minting practices, which use advanced computers and machinery designed to reduce mistakes to almost zero, minting in the 1960s involved more human involvement, more manual adjustments, more chances for tiny variations to slip through. That is why every 1964 D penny must be examined carefully, very carefully, because even the smallest anomaly can dramatically change its value. Something as tiny as an extra thickness in the date, a faint doubling of the letters, a die chip on Lincoln's coat, or a misalignment between the obverse and reverse can transform a 1-cent coin into a $10,000 treasure. But the true fascination comes from the coins that show extreme doubling. Coins where Lincoln's profile appears almost as if a ghost image is echoing behind him. This kind of doubling isn't just a minor variation. It is a dramatic visual distortion created during the die-making process, an event so rare that collectors consider such coins the holy grail of the 1964 D series. Some examples show doubling so strong on the date that the numbers look like they have shadows behind them. Others display doubling on Liberty or I in God We Trust so crisp and clear that even a beginner could see the difference immediately. These coins are not simply errors. They are masterpieces created by accident, and their rarity makes them highly sought after. Then there are off-center strikes, where the design appears shifted noticeably to one direction, leaving blank areas on the edge of the coin. The more extreme the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. Off-center strikes of 40%, 50%, or even more are considered spectacular errors, and when in 1964, D penny exhibits such a dramatic mistake, it can attract intense bidding at auction. Some collectors specialize only in off-center coins, seeing them not as flawed, but as uniquely beautiful. Like abstract art created by the machinery itself, double-struck coins add another level of fascination. These occur when the coin is struck once, then accidentally struck again, leaving two overlapping impressions. The second strike might be slightly rotated, or shifted, or tilted, creating a surreal effect that makes the coin appear almost alive with movement. A double-struck 1964 D penny with clear separation between the strikes is so rare that collectors might pay extraordinary amounts to own one, depending on condition and clarity. And because most double-struck coins get caught and destroyed before leaving the mint, any that survived are considered miracles. Even more remarkable are the transitional-type errors that some collectors claim to have seen. Pennies that appear to have been struck on foreign planchets or on metal intended for other denominations. If such a coin were ever authenticated, it could easily become one of the most valuable pennies in existence. These are the kinds of stories that spark endless discussion in collector communities. Rumors of unique pieces, whispers about privately owned rarities, debates about the existence of a specimen that might defy everything we know. And although not every rumor ends up being true, the possibility alone keeps the excitement alive. Beyond errors, another reason the 1964 D penny continues to captivate collectors is the remarkable difference in condition found among surviving coins. Many were heavily circulated and show significant wear, smoothing out Lincoln's face and flattening the details of the wheat stalks. But the few coins that were preserved from the moment they were minted, untouched, unhandled, kept in rolls or bags for decades, shine with a luster that feels almost unreal today. The red brilliance of an uncirculated copper cent from the 1960s is breathtaking to behold. When the light catches the surface just right, it glows with a warm fire, almost as if the coin is alive. These high-grade red coins, graded as MS 65, MS 66, MS 67, or higher, are incredibly rare for the 1964 D series. Collectors know that copper is a reactive metal. It darkens, it tones, it absorbs the oils from fingers, it fades over time. So a copper coin remaining bright red for 60 years is nothing short of extraordinary. That is why high-grade 1964 D pennies can sell for thousands even without errors. Add an error on top of that grade, and suddenly you're stepping into life-changing value. And that is how stories of million-dollar sales are born. A perfect storm of rarity, condition, and error variety can elevate a 1-cent coin into something of legendary worth. The rumors surrounding the $244 million valuation may sound unbelievable, but that number doesn't come from the coin's metal. It comes from mythology, from private deals, from collectors with deep pockets chasing the rarest possible specimen, from the idea of owning something unique in the world. That is the true price of rarity, not the material, but the exclusivity. People have paid tens of millions for paintings, for stamps, for rare baseball cards. Why not a coin, especially one with a story as deep, mysterious, and powerful as the 1964 D-penny? And then there's the human element, the thrill of the hunt. Because for many people, the value of the 1964 D-penny isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's the excitement of searching. It's the joy of discovery. It's the hope that something extraordinary might appear in the most ordinary place. It's the belief that treasure still exists today, hiding in plain sight. A coin worth life-changing money could still be resting in a jar somewhere. It could be tucked in a forgotten envelope. It could be lying under a floorboard in an old house. It could be sitting in a drawer full of random coins, waiting patiently for someone to notice. This is why the 1964 D-penny remains one of the most talked about coins in the world. It carries mystery. It carries history. It carries possibility. And most of all, it carries hope. Hope that even the smallest object can hold unimaginable value. As we continue this deep journey into the world of the 1964 D. Lincoln cent, the story expands even further because the more closely you examine this simple copper coin, the more layers of meaning start to unfold. What begins as a small, ordinary piece of metal transforms into something almost mythological, something that represents opportunity, history, mystery, and imagination all wrapped in one. And this is what truly sets the 1964 D-penny apart from countless other coins. Its ability to connect with people on a level that feels almost personal. It doesn't matter if someone is a professional collector with decades of experience or someone who just found a jar of old coins in a relative's house. The 1964 D-penny has a way of capturing attention, making people pause, stare, and wonder what if. And that what if is powerful. It is the spark that drives entire communities of collectors, treasure hunters, hobbyists, and curious people to keep searching, keep learning, and keep hoping. The possibility that the tiny penny in your hand might be something special, even something rare enough to become worth a fortune, is enough to ignite excitement in anyone. And when a coin comes from a year like 1964, a year famous for extremely high mintage numbers, but also a year full of unpredictable mint activity, the potential grows even more. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies that year, but the more pennies produced, the more chances for anomalies, accidents, and minting errors to slip through. This is the birthplace of possibility, and possibility is what turns a simple coin into a legend. Collectors often say that the 1964 D-penny is a coin where the variety list will never be complete. And they're right. Even after decades of study, new varieties still show up today. Someone finds a new doubling pattern. Someone else finds a die break that hasn't been cataloged before. Another collector discovers a slightly rotated die alignment that no one had documented. These discoveries keep adding to the enormous complexity surrounding this single year of pennies. And that complexity is exciting because it means that even now, 60 years later, the 1964 D-penny is still evolving, still revealing its secrets, still surprising the numismatic world. The beauty of this lies in unpredictability. You can search through 1964 D-pennies and find nothing, and then suddenly, the very next one might show a strange shape near Lincoln's eye, a small crack along the rim, a doubling in the date, or a mint mark positioned at an odd angle. In the world of collecting, the smallest detail can be the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth thousands. That unpredictability is what transforms the hunt into a thrilling experience. It's like looking for rare gems buried inside a mountain of ordinary stones. When you find one, the thrill is unforgettable. Another layer of fascination comes from the fact that copper, unlike many modern metals, ages in a beautiful way. It tones, it darkens, it develops shades of red, brown, gold, and even deep blue or violet in unusual cases. Some collectors love natural toning, especially when it happens in a symmetrical or visually stunning way. A perfectly toned 1964 D penny with rainbow-like color patterns can be worth far more than its untuned counterpart, simply because collectors appreciate beauty and uniqueness. Toning becomes a kind of artwork created by time itself, and when a coin combines that kind of artistic appearance with a mint error or high grade, its value multiplies dramatically. But the one aspect of the 1964 D penny that keeps coming back again and again, the one thing that people cannot stop talking about, is the potential for extraordinary error combinations. Imagine a coin that is already uncirculated, meaning sharp, crisp, and untouched. Now imagine it also has a dramatic doubling on the obverse. Add a misaligned die, or a rotated die, or a rare punch position of the Denver mint mark. Imagine the coin also happens to have a natural rainbow tone from decades of careful storage. A coin like that, combining multiple rare features, could easily become one of the greatest modern penny discoveries ever made. Collectors would pay enormous sums for something like that. And because the 1964 D penny has so many known varieties already, and so many unknown varieties waiting to be found, the possibility remains very real that such a masterpiece exists. Some collectors even believe that out there, somewhere, hidden in an old roll or jar, might be a one-of-a-kind 1964 D penny with a dramatic error pattern that no one has ever seen before. These beliefs are not fantasy. They are based on real discoveries in the numismatic world. Coins that were once considered impossible have appeared years later. Varieties once dismissed as myths have eventually been authenticated. Private collectors have revealed pieces that the public had never seen before. So when someone suggests that a truly extraordinary 1964 D penny might exist, one so rare that it could command a staggering price, even reaching the legendary $244 million figure whispered in collecting circles, they aren't imagining an impossibility. They are imagining a rare, but very real, pattern that the world of coins has seen before. The emergence of a unique specimen that defies expectation and becomes priceless because it is literally one of one. And that is the magic of coins. They don't follow rules. They don't make sense. They don't behave according to expectations. A penny can be worth a penny for 60 years, and then one day, when the right collector examines it with the right tools, it becomes something extraordinary. A small detail no one noticed before becomes the key that unlocks its value. This has happened countless times in numismatic history. Coins that sat unnoticed for decades suddenly explode into the spotlight because someone finally realized what they had. And the 1964 D penny is the perfect candidate for such discoveries because it was minted in such high numbers, in such a volatile environment, with such a wide variety of die conditions, that unique anomalies are not only possible, they are almost guaranteed to exist. Another part of the mystique surrounding the 1964 D penny comes from the way the market reacts to it. When even a moderately rare error shows up, collectors compete fiercely. Bidding climbs quickly. People want to own a piece of the mystery. They want to say they have something unique from a year known for complexity. They want to hold a slice of history in their hands. And because of this high demand, values continue to rise. Even common examples in high grade have climbed in recent years because collectors want them before they disappear into private collections forever. This demand is also fueled by something deeply human: nostalgia. The 1964 coin with Lincoln's portrait connects people to childhood memories, to their parents, to stories from older generations. It connects them to the image of Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of strength, leadership, and resilience. It connects them to the past in a way that feels warm, familiar, and powerful. A coin like that becomes emotionally valuable, and emotional value often drives financial value higher than any chart or guidebook can predict. And so the 1964 D penny continues its journey through hands, through stories, through searches, through discoveries, through myths, through dreams. It carries with it the potential to surprise anyone at any moment. It reminds us that even the smallest item in the room may be hiding a story bigger than anything we could imagine. And that is why people will continue searching for decades to come. because the thrill of possibly uncovering something extraordinary is a feeling that never fades. And as we move deeper into the story of the 1964 D. Lincoln cent with errors, this is the moment where the mystery of this coin becomes even more intense, even more unbelievable, because at this stage of the journey, collectors, historians, dealers, and even government agencies have started piecing together the truth behind why certain 1964 D cents exist in conditions, variations, and minting anomalies that no one can fully explain. You see, the 1964 D penny isn't just a coin. It is a surviving witness to a period in American history where mint operations were working at extreme pressure, where the demand for small change across the nation was exploding, and where the Denver Mint was producing billions of cents at speeds that would strain today's machinery. But sometimes, when the pressure rises too high, things slip through the cracks, and this is exactly where errors are born. Not ordinary mistakes, but extraordinary anomalies that would later rewrite the history of American coinage. Because the more collectors analyze the surviving 1964 D cents, the more they discover microscopic evidence that certain dies were failing long before they were replaced. Some dies were clashing without planchets. Others were grinding against feeder mechanisms. Some dies were misaligned. Others were polished so aggressively to remove clash marks that they removed details that were supposed to be there. And in the middle of all of this chaos, there were the extremely rare coins that appear to have doubled images, misstruck features, odd rotations, unusual alloy streaks, and strange weight variations that should not exist under normal circumstances. And this is exactly the kind of coin that turns a simple copper cent into a seven-figure or even eight-figure treasure. But the most mind-shaking part of this story is not just the errors themselves. It's how few genuine mint mistakes from 1964 D survived, especially those that survived in strong condition. Because during the era of the coin shortage crisis of the 1960s, millions upon millions of coins were circulated instantly. They hit bags, counters, pockets, cash registers, vending machines, bus fares, toll booths, everything you can imagine. And coins that enter the real world don't survive the way collectors wish they did. Their surfaces get destroyed. Their rims get flattened. Their mint luster disappears in a matter of weeks. Their microscopic details vanish long before anyone ever thinks to check for errors. So whenever a collector finds a 1964 D cent with even mild luster remaining, it is already more special than 95% of the original mintage. Yet the ones that have major errors and still remain fully original, that is where the world of coin collecting becomes something magical. Because each rare error is like a fingerprint of the mint itself. The off-center strikes demonstrate moments when the planchet wasn't seated correctly. The double die errors show moments when the working hub shifted slightly during creation. The die cracks reveal moments when the pressure was too high, causing metal fatigue. The clipped planchets reflect imperfect blanking operations. The repunched mint marks reveal manual processes that existed long before mint marks were added by computer-controlled machines. And then there is the holy grail category. Errors so clean, so insane, so extreme, that they shouldn't have survived at all. These are the pieces that become legends, coins that sell for hundreds of thousands, even millions, because the rarer the error and the more beautiful the condition, the more explosive the price becomes. And as collectors follow the story deeper, they begin to understand why certain 1964 D pennies have reached fictional, exaggerated values like $244 million in viral stories. Of course, these numbers are entertainment myth, but the emotional surge behind them is real, because the collectors who study these coins know that one unimaginable, previously unknown error could change everything. Imagine finding a double-struck, broad-struck, rotated die, off-metal 1964 D in flawless condition. It would be the biggest discovery in U.S. cent history. And while no official record shows a coin like this yet, the possibility alone is enough to ignite an entire generation of treasure hunters, metal detectorists, estate sale explorers, and roll hunters to check their pockets more closely. And then when you add the story of how billions of 1964 D pennies were melted, reprocessed, and destroyed over later decades, the surviving population becomes even smaller. There is even evidence that during the copper recycling pushes of the 1980s, countless 1964 D-cents, possibly including valuable errors, were thrown into industrial melting pots without anyone realizing what treasures were being destroyed. Imagine thousands of rare coins dying unnoticed in factories, their unique features evaporating into liquid copper, becoming nothing more than anonymous metal bars. This is why the surviving rare errors are now revered like artifacts. And the deeper collectors dig into this history, the more they discover strange anomalies like unusual weight readings. A typical 1964 D-cent should weigh 3.11 grams, but some find specimens weighing slightly lighter or slightly heavier. And these variations often lead to theories about improper planchet blanks, experimental alloy levels, or planchets punched from non-standard metal sheets used during emergency minting conditions. Then there are the mysterious coins with missing details, weak dates, blurry mint marks, faded letters on Liberty, vague outlines of Lincoln's jacket. Some of these are machine issues. Others are die polish events. But a few are so bizarre that collectors still debate their origins, and all of this becomes part of the legend, part of the fascination, part of the reason why the 1964 D penny continues to grow in fame decade after decade. Every new discovery adds a new chapter to the story, and every collector who finds even a minor error becomes part of the history. Some people keep their coins in safety boxes. Others auction them. Others hold them for years waiting for the perfect market moment. Because the truth is, even today, 60 years after the coin was minted, the market value is still rising. Demand is rising. Awareness is rising. Populations of high-grade survivors are shrinking. And collectors know that rarity plus condition equals explosive value. And when you add major errors into the equation, that value becomes unbelievable. But what makes the story even stronger is how everyday people, students, factory workers, merchants, travelers, children collecting pennies in jars, have all played a part in the survival of these coins. The rarest 1964 D errors didn't survive in museums. They survived in pockets and drawers and old jars and forgotten corners of old wooden cupboards. They survived because people didn't know they had anything special. And that is the most thrilling part. Someone out there, right now, somewhere in the world, still has a life-changing 1964 D penny sitting casually in a tin box, mixed with random coins, totally unaware of its value. That possibility alone is enough to create excitement across the entire coin-collecting community. And this brings us to the final part of the story, where the journey of the 1964 D penny transforms from a simple mint-produced object into a global treasure hunt, a symbol of hidden fortune, a reminder that sometimes the smallest things in life hold the biggest surprises. And that is what keeps collectors searching, studying, learning, dreaming, and hoping, because the next great discovery is always possible. And now we reach the final stage of the incredible journey of the 1964 D Lincoln cent, a coin that has captured imaginations, inspired collectors, and created legends unlike almost any other piece of American currency. By this point, it is impossible not to appreciate the combination of history, craftsmanship, chance, and mystery that defines this coin. The 1964 D penny, with its familiar Lincoln portrait and iconic memorial reverse, seems ordinary at first glance, but every surface, every detail, every tiny imperfection tells a story of 6 decades of American life, minting ingenuity, and the unpredictable nature of chance. From the everyday coins circulating in the hands of shopkeepers, children, and workers, to the rare, error-laden pieces that emerge from collectors' hands decades later, the 1964 D penny remains a perfect example of how small objects can carry monumental significance. As we reflect on its story, we understand why collectors obsess over minute details. The slightest doubling on the letters or numbers, a slight misalignment of the Denver mint mark, a faint die crack along the rim, or even a subtle planchet imperfection can transform a penny from a simple piece of copper into a numismatic treasure. Each of these anomalies is a physical echo of the mint's process, the human hands that oversaw production, and the mechanical idiosyncrasies that existed before modern error-proof technology. And yet, even with decades of research, there remain aspects of the 1964 D cent that are unexplained, undiscovered, and perhaps waiting in the corners of old jars or forgotten coin rolls for someone to uncover. And that is the magic. The 1964 D penny is both tangible and mythical, practical and legendary. It is the ultimate symbol of possibility, the reminder that a life-changing discovery might be hidden in the most ordinary places. The stories of private collectors who have uncovered high-grade errors, the whispers of coins that could theoretically reach extreme valuations, and the careful documentation of doubling, misstrikes, and unusual toning. All of this comes together to create a narrative that transcends currency and becomes pure fascination. Even casual collectors can feel that thrill, the anticipation that one small coin could hold value and significance beyond imagination. The idea that a single 1-cent piece might be worth millions, or even enter the rarest legends of numismatic history, keeps the 1964 D penny alive in discussion, study, and dreams. And the story is not just about value, it is about connection. Every 1964 D penny, whether circulated heavily or preserved in brilliant red, uncirculated condition, carries a connection to history. A connection to the era of the 1960s, to Abraham Lincoln's enduring image, to the Denver Mint at its busiest, to millions of ordinary Americans who handled these coins decades ago. It is this human connection, intertwined with mechanical imperfection and natural aging, that elevates the coin from copper to legend. It is also what inspires collectors, hobbyists, and even historians to study, hunt, and marvel at these small but extraordinary artifacts. And so, in closing, the 1964 D penny with errors stands not only as a numismatic treasure, but as a symbol of endless possibility. It reminds us that within the ordinary lies the extraordinary, that the smallest objects can carry the deepest stories, and that even after 60 years, discovery is always possible. Somewhere in the world, there may still be a penny that defies expectations, a coin that has survived untouched and unnoticed, waiting to reveal its secrets to someone bold enough to search. That is the enduring fascination of the 1964 D penny, the reason collectors keep looking, studying, and dreaming, the reason this tiny copper disc has achieved legendary status, and the reason that stories of unbelievable values like $244 million, while mythic, continue to capture the imagination of the world. The 1964 D penny is more than metal. It is history, mystery, art, hope, and possibility, all wrapped in one unassuming coin, proving that the smallest things can truly hold the greatest treasures. And that, perhaps, is the ultimate reason this coin will never be forgotten.